All right, I think it's 7, Medora. I don't think we're going to get an audience, so I think we can.
I'm sure they'll all watch on YouTube later. They're just busy. Everybody's at the baseball and softball fields. All right. I haven't done this a lot virtually, so bear with me. I'm going to call the meeting to order without a gavel. So call the meeting to order of the Norfolk School Committee for June 22nd, 2022. We will begin the meeting as we always do by reading the mission statement. The Norfolk Public Schools offers a safe, joyful, and challenging learning environment that meets the needs of our diverse students through school, family, and community partnerships. We provide an education that inspires lifelong learners and cultivates caring and productive citizens of our ever-changing world. Roll call, please.
Jennifer Wynn.
There you go.
Shannon Manassas.
Sarah Ward.
Lisa Sheldon.
And I'm here too, Medora Champagne.
Victoria Saldana.
The rest of us.
Ingrid Alardi.
Barry Necto.
Okay.
And Vicky.
I think I spoke over Vicky. Sorry, Vicky.
And Vicky Saldana. There we go.
All right, same answer.
So first on our agenda, I think will be pretty quick. It's public comment. Seeing no one other than the individuals who have identified themselves thus far. I don't believe we have any public comment, but I'll pause for a moment, see if anybody pops in. No. All right, moving on to the next agenda item, which is correspondence. We have some donations to review to the school gift fund. So again, bear with me while I scroll through simultaneously with trying to run the virtual meeting. So if you look at Exhibit 1, we have a school gift fund activity that will require our approval. We have a number of donations from NCL, the Norfolk PTO, and NCL and the Norfolk PTO again, which will be given to, let's see, it's math grants, field day supplies, course stipends, kind of general grants, the donations resulting from the NCL Gala, and then some more NCL Gala grants and general grants for the HOD. All together, the donations that we are reviewing total $11,703.09. So coming in with a strong finish to the year on donations. So we would be looking.
The first grant, the $3,000 from the NCL, I believe that is the Katie Greer grant.
Okay.
Trish. So it's not math. It is for the consultant that's going to do the presentation for both the student body as well as for parents on internet and cyber safety.
Okay.
So I'll just clarify that and we'll amend that.
It sounds a lot more interesting than just math grants, so I appreciate the clip. That would be great too. I like all the grants, but fantastic. So we're looking for a motion to accept the donations to the school gift account as outlined in Exhibit 1.
I'll make a motion to accept. Okay.
Or I can second, whatever.
Is there a second? So, okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, other than to say thank you very much to both the NCL and the Norfolk PTO. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you again to those wonderful organizations. I believe that is it as far as donations are concerned. So we will move on to our, gotta scroll back to see the agenda. The next item on our agenda, which would be the school committee chair report. I have no such report for this evening, as there has not been a tremendous amount of activity other than the ending of the school year, which I'm sure we all understand and don't need me to report on. So we will move on to Ingrid's part of the evening, which is the superintendent's report. So it looks like she has her work cut out for her tonight.
Quite a few things on the agenda. But to start, every year at the end of the year, sometime between May and August, we have our technology department director, Trish Kelly, come and provide the committee with an update on the activities of the tech department over the course of the year. We are very, very fortunate in Norfolk. We have an outstanding technology team. They've done a great amount of grant writing, procuring new equipment for the district. They've supported us as we transitioned and had to provide remote instruction. They keep our operating system safe and secure. We have technology integration specialists that work with our teachers to enrich instruction and infuse technology in ways that help bring the curriculum to life. So they've done a lot, and I'm going to turn it over to Trish. She has a brief presentation and wants to highlight some of the work of the committee this year. So Trish, take it away.
Thank you, Ingrid, for that introduction. I'm just going to share my screen with you. One second. Okay. All right. Let me just get started here. Okay. Hi, I am happy to be here, and I appreciate that introduction, Ingrid, that you gave us. I would like to begin tonight by saying thank you to the school committee, administration, and the PTO and NCL for their continued support. Just see here. Also to my teammates. My teammates have done an unbelievable job the last couple of years through this whole COVID situation. I will begin tonight by introducing my team, share with you a variety of highlights from the classroom, and finish up by giving you a progress update on our capital projects. The team that we currently have, Jack Brightman, he is the District IT Support Specialist. Ellen Horton is over at the H. Olive Day. She is the Tech Integration Specialist. Raphael Sardi is our District Network Specialist. And Robin Tusiri is our FK Tech Integration Specialist. And the thing about Ellen Horton and Robin Tusiri, they have been in our district for over 20 years, both of them. They were classroom teachers before they got their license to move into these positions. So they are two awesome teammates because they know the curriculum behind what we're doing with technology. So that's really, it's so nice to have them on our team. The mission statement that we have is Norfolk Public Schools inspires, engages, and empowers learners to actively use technology resources to question, collaborate, and extend their learning beyond the classroom walls. Through child-led inquiry, analysis, creating and sharing, students develop the skills necessary to thrive in a connected global environment. And tonight's presentation is a great way to see how we live this statement out. This year was an exciting year as we experienced the joy of slowly transitioning to what school looked like prior to March of 2020. We were able to have the students back in person and once again start collaborating and creating and enjoying being together to experience art, music, field trips, band concert, and so much more. I'm going to begin with the H. Olive Day. This year, Mrs. Horton over at H. Olive Day focused on digital literacy, computer science, and Google for education. Mrs. Horton used Common Sense Media to focus on digital literacy, and her computer science lessons included coding, using products like Codable and Scratch Junior. She also uses no-tech and low-tech activities, which are always part of our curriculum. Within Google for Education, Mrs. Horton introduced Google Slides, Google Docs, and Drawings at the H. Olive Day. this is a really cool slide here. So kindergarten focused on Scratch Junior this year. And Scratch Junior is an introductory programming language. Students create programs by dragging programmable blocks into position. Each student begins with a blank slate, as you can see there. And then they create their story. They add scenery and characters, and then they program their characters to walk across the screen. I mean, just look at some of these. They're adorable, and this is kindergarten. Good stuff happening. The next slide is about Book Creator. So Book Creator brings creativity to the classroom. It combines text, images, audio, and video to create things like digital stories, digital portfolios, poetry books, books about me, science reports, and interactive stories. So this year, grades 1 and 2 focused on a wide variety of books. They inserted their own images, their own drawings. They typed up their story. They added backgrounds. And a project like this incorporates the 4 C's of technology, right? It's the creativity, it's the communication, it's the collaboration, and it's the critical thinking. And let me just see if I can show you one of these books. So let's see here. I'm going to open this up. Share this tab. So here's a book about the bald eagle by Fritz. So notice how he picked blue for his background. So he tells a little story about Benjamin Franklin wanted the turkey for the U.S. symbol instead of the bald eagle. He did admit it was a little funny. And you can see he puts loser and winner. He puts all these graphics here. Has this little story. And then we're back to this one. So there's different kinds, and you know some of the spelling is a little off here, and that's because sometimes the digital piece comes before the literate. No offense, Vicki, I know it's curriculum, but sometimes they just get right in there and start. So yeah, they did a great job with the books. Grade 2 worked on Macy's Parade. Okay, so they worked on Google Drawings, and Google Drawings is a virtual board that allows users to create content by drawing, pasting images, linking videos and websites, inserting text and shapes. And they use this to create visual storyboards, original art, maps, flow charts, diagrams, and more. And Mrs. Horton thought it would be fun for the second graders this year to use the shape and line tools to create their own Macy's balloon. So they had a lot of fun with doing that. Moving over to Freeman Kennedy, Mrs. Tusseri focused on 3 areas this year: digital citizenship, students' discovery, and students' creativity. Digital citizenship is the core of instruction, with the focus on curating and protecting students' digital footprints. Student discoveries are facilitated with materials available to the students in the reopened Makerspace. That was another bonus this year. And student creativity allows students to make curriculum connections while developing critical thinking and technology skills aligned to our digital literacy, computer science, and our ISTE standards. So let me see here. So let me tell you a little bit about the digital footprint. Students in grades 3 through 6 participated in interactive lessons to learn about what it means to curate and protect their individual digital footprints. Tools like Kahoot, Peer Deck, PicSong, and Google's Be Internet Awesome provided students with engaging opportunities to consider how their online activity impacts their digital footprint. This is one of the more important topics, as it teaches students how to have a productive and healthy relationship with technology. Here we have our student discoveries. So through exploration, students in grades 3 and 4 made discoveries about circuits using their Chromebooks and Makey. Trial and error helped students determine which materials were conductors and allowed them to make music, design game controllers, and even curate instruments using just a piece of paper and pencil. Additionally, students in grade 3 to 6 often requested to use no-tech tools like our Kiva planks to design and discover. So let me just show you if I can. So you can see down there where the little car is, they programmed that car to make the turns, to know when to start, to know when to stop. And if I just click in here for a minute, you can see the circuits. Okay. All right, moving right along, stop motion animation. This is a really cool product that we have in that the upper grades use. Grades 5 and 6. These impressive projects required planning and persistence, creativity, and knowledge of presentation skills. Most animations were comprised of 50 to 70 slides. However, some students were so inspired that they continued working on this project on their own time and then came back to the lab to show Mrs. Tusiri. Some of the slides equaled 100 just to make one of these games. The snake game that you see there in the top left is made up of 417 slides. This student was so into it. The students were able to share their animations on a collaborative Padlet. So many of the projects were on display school-wide on our digital display boards outside the main office at Freeman Kennedy in the cafeteria. And this provided students with an authentic audience, which proved to be highly motivating. It's like the old flip book, if you think of that. You know, you make a little bit each time. So WNPS is back on the air. Students and faculty stay up to date with WNPS. So WNPS is the morning show, and it returned this year to Freeman Kennedy. Through a partnership with Norfolk Rec, students gather in the FK Makerspace 3 afternoons a week, and they write and produce and film. They edit it all, and they create a morning show for the staff and students every morning when they come in. The morning show is on, and this is the brainchild of Mrs. Tusiri. As I mentioned earlier, we have the responsibility of a lot of different areas, but professional development is one of the areas that we focus on. And over the years, we had really large PD days where we collaborated with Rentham and Plainville, and we had like 15 to 18 workshops some days. Since COVID, we've been doing it virtually. However, we have these really nice newsletters, and they are technology tips, not only for educators. I know it says for educators there, but many people throughout the district, whether in the business office or food services or admin, get these Thursday tech tips sent to them, and they're really helpful. So it's just another way that we try to keep everybody up to speed on what's going on. And the beauty of it is that you can watch it basically anytime, anywhere, or go back to it. So that's been something that we put in there this year since it is virtual. And the next slide is capital improvements. So this year has been very busy for us. We have closed 1,733 help tickets. in addition to preparing for the capital improvement projects. The technology's life cycle for many of our products has been extended through our ongoing maintenance updates and upgrades. However, we are approaching the replacement phase of our core categories in our infrastructure. And this past fall, the town voted to approve the capital budget requests put forth by the NPS Technology Department. We had requested funding for 3 critical upgrades to the infrastructure. The first being district-wide phone system. Our phone system had the end of life at 2018, so that needed to be upgraded, and it needed to be in compliance with the new federal regulation of the Ray-Bon Act. Funding was also requested for cabling and wiring infrastructure at the HL Day School. The cabling was original to the building 28 years ago and can no longer sustain the bandwidth needed. And the third upgrade was for our access surveillance systems. We'll be working on upgrading the surveillance systems in both schools this year. And last but not least, we are busting out at the seams at H. Olive Day School. And for the last 20 years, the tech team had a computer lab / makerspace at the H. Olive Day School. And we also had a tech office and server room over there. About 3 years ago, we lost our tech office over there because of the increase in enrollment. We needed more space. And last year, we lost our computer lab and our makerspace. So the space crunch is real at the HL Day. The stage now is being used as the technology office and to house technology equipment. When the stage needs to be used for its intended purpose, such as the kindergarten memory show, what happens is all of the equipment gets moved off of the stage. And you can see this on the upper right here. All of this gets moved out the door, across the hall, and into the music room. And then if you look up here, you can see that the risers get put up and they have their performance. And then all of the equipment has to come back again and move back into onto the stage. Whoops. And then down below, you can see, oops, I'm sorry, this sensitive keyboard here. The tech office is now in like a little cinder block area and it just jammed. So that is a problem for the technology department. And I would just like to say, this is one of my last slides. Let us remember, one book, one pen, one child, and one teacher can change the world. Education is the key to unlocking the world, a passport to freedom. Thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate all of your support.
Thank you so much, Trish. I know that the committee may have some comments and questions that they want to have you address. I think you can see in the presentation, we have really focused on expanding and increasing the engineering and science technology strands of our technology program. And when Trish is talking about low technology items, we're talking about building blocks, all kinds of tools that students use to design and test projects. And again, following that sort of inquiry model. So you can see that starts all the way in kindergarten, all the way through. We've also really expanded our coding and programming to align with the new ISTE standards. So I'll turn it over to the committee if anybody has questions for Trish tonight.
I do, Trish. Hi.
Hi, Jen.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. And thank you to you and your team. Really relay that really wonderful stuff. And we always know what a great job you all do. And I'm sorry for your working conditions, and just know that we all are aware and, you know, are working. Just stick with us for a little bit longer, please. And my second question is, and I'm not sure if this is a Trish question or a Matt Hafner question or someone else. I had a parent at Freeman Kennedy tell me that they were trying to get cell service. They were cleaning up after field day and they were on the back dock landing area. She's like, and she got shut out and she had all these like bags and she's like, I had no cell service. Will the infrastructure, you were talking about the wiring or whatnot, will that help that, or is that Verizon or carrier specific?
That's carrier specific. Yeah, that's definitely not us. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. I would love for you to feel free, and anybody just to reach out or email me and come see the students in action. You know, I would love, I know everybody's busy, but I'd love for you to come to the makerspace and just see, you know, the creations that are happening there and the collaboration. It's just awesome.
And I would say we actually, I think the Norfolk Public Schools has really led the field in terms of technology. We have a lot of other districts that request to come visit our makerspace and to observe lessons and have talked to the tech team about how they built the capacity to do these kinds of projects at the lower grades. So we are a popular destination for other tech teams. I think how many visits we hosted? Quite a
it was well over 100 visits before COVID, and we've had our students also present at MassQ, which is the largest K-12 technology conference in all of New England. And we've had our students over there presenting. They've been asked to come and present with some of their creations.
And also the tech team was short-staffed for the better part of this year. We had an opening for a technology integration teacher that was not filled until February, and we had one of our IT people leave early. So they've done tremendous work with little staff and not a lot of space and other things. So they did a great job this year. Any other questions for Trish before we let her get back to her life?
I just want to say thank you to Trish. It's I work in educational technology, and it's really impressive to see this, and I can see why people would want to flock to us for technology. So thank you and the entire team.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Trish.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you, everybody.
All right, so the next thing on the agenda for tonight is the quarterly bullying report. And again, per school committee policy, I provide the committee with an update every quarter on the number of reports we have received of bullying behavior and the outcomes of investigations. So during the last quarter of the school year, which took us through the last day of school, there were no discipline reports or reports regarding bullying at the HL day in the final quarter. There were 2 reports at Freeman Kennedy. Obviously, we have a comprehensive bullying intervention and prevention plan. All reports of bullying are investigated in accordance with the regulations and with our district plan. One of the incidents at the Freeman was determined to be more inappropriate behavior, inappropriate discipline consequences were taken. And the other was determined to be bullying and to meet the criteria for that. And then again, per the policy, appropriate next steps and actions were taken. Any questions? This does seem to be trending down. The last quarter, we had fewer reports than we did in the middle part of the school year. And again, we do have a comprehensive bullying prevention program and curriculum at both beginning in kindergarten and going through grade 6. So hopefully we'll see those trends start to come down, because we were concerned in the beginning of the year that we were seeing an increase, which I think was really predicted based on the fact that kids hadn't been all together in school for quite some time. So it seems to be going the direction we would hope it would be. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Barry in a second. The next thing on the agenda is, as we talked about during the budget process, we have several different departments that have different salary matrices and salary schedules. And periodically, we look at each department and we check the market conditions. We look to make sure that we're remaining competitive. We knew that we had 2 departments whose salary matrices were not competitive with the field that we had prioritized to review this year. And that was for our food service staff and our secretarial or clerical staff. These are small departments within the clerical. We only have about 6 people. We have a very small food service staff, but we hadn't reviewed those salary matrices in quite some time. I think with the change in minimum wage coming in January, and with our experience with the significant challenges we had filling open food service positions this year, it was really timely that we looked at that. And I'm going to turn it over to Barry. We have a proposal. We had set aside in the budget about $10,000 to make these adjustments. I think Barry, as he will outline it, we were able to revise both schedules to be much more competitive, and came in very close to that 10,000. I think we're $150 over or something like that, but it's really very close. So Barry, do you want to walk through the changes in the, we can maybe begin with the clerical proposal and then move on to the food service. Does that work?
Sounds good.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. Basically, on the clerical and secretarial side, in addition to reviewing market data, we wanted to simplify the matrix, because there were many grades within the matrix that we either weren't using or were way out of whack with the market. So not only did we meet market rates, but we also simplified the matrix. It looks much more complicated than it actually is. We went from 6 grades to 3. The clerical support staff, a 10-month school secretary, and a 12-month school secretary. Those are sort of self-explanatory. What we also did to create some additional competitiveness in the grid is we reduced the grid's 2 steps at the bottom, or eliminated the 2 steps at the bottom, and added 2 at the top. And many of our clerical and secretarial staff are either at the top of the old grid or about to be at the top of the old grid. So they get stuck there. And as the market changes, they don't really, their rates don't really change with the market. So we created 2 steps on all 3 of the grids, so that people that are towards the top of the grids have some place to go. We reviewed all of the data against a fairly large market set of data, and we feel the new rates with the consolidation and the elimination in addition to the 2 steps is much more competitive with the market. So that's the simple version of the clerical changes. On the food service,
I just wanted to say, with the clerical, the original matrix came from the town. And so when Barry's talking about grades, there were 6 different grades, but we didn't have anybody in several of them. Right. So they weren't really relevant to the school, and it was just confusing. So that's why we kind of collapsed it. But there weren't people in those grades that we are moving from one to the other. We're just getting rid of them because nobody was in those categories.
That's right. One last comment on that.
Can I just ask one question? Sorry.
You can.
You're eliminating grade 9 executive assistant. So is that someone currently?
So that is, we have one person who will be grandfathered in that category. It's a special education position for that secretarial position, but it's really a 12-month position. So when we looked at what other districts have structured, in most places, that position, it falls under the 12-month secretary. So after the person currently in the position resigns, that will be moved to the 12-month secretarial position.
Okay,
Makes
thanks.
sense? Yeah.
Just one more comment on the clerical before I move to food service. So when I cost out everybody and move them on their correct spots on the new grid, the increase is an additional $9,200 rather than just moving up on the old grid. And as Ingrid said, I had put a placeholder in the budget for $10,000. So the 9,200 fits nicely under the 10. On the food service side, we had a similar situation where we had out of market rates, and we also had a 4-step grid. And there are 2 attachments where you can see both the old and the new grids are on the 2 attachments. So what we did is, again, by assessing market data, we created a new 5-step grid where the highest step on the old grid becomes the lowest step on the new grid with a market increase of 2.5% applied to that rate. So again, we have most of our people are on the top of the grid. So now they go to the bottom of the grid, but they have 4 more steps to go. And that really is where we pick up the market rates. This particular change cost the district $950. So again, it's pretty close to fitting under the $10,000 when you add in the $950 and the $9,200. And we feel like we're in a much better competitive place in both job categories, particularly in the food service area where we've really struggled to find employees. One other part of the food service proposal is both of our other districts of Plainville and Rentham are also looking at this change. So because we share our director and assistant director across the 3 districts, if they adopt the changes and one district has a need for an employee, we may be able to share staff across the 3 districts, which would really help bridge over difficulties in the hiring. So that's the change in the food service, and I'm happy to take any other questions.
And I would just say, as of January, minimum wage is going to $15 an hour. So our bottom 2 steps would be out of compliance with the legal requirements for minimum wage, which is why we got rid of that and moved. And as Barry said, last year we regionalized the management of our food service program with Rentham and Plainville. And it's worked out really well, and we're going to continue with that model. It was a cost savings for us, but it also helped with purchasing power, having the 3 elementary districts share one organizational structure. But we are hoping both Rentham and Plainville are voting this same food service salary matrix change. And if we all have the same pay scales, it's easier to share employees between districts. We're not losing people to Rentham, we're not losing people to Plainville, and our subs can work and make the same rate between. So it's in our efforts to continue to look at regionalizing the entire department for cost savings and efficiency. Any questions on those 2?
What happens if Rentham or Plainville don't vote for it?
That's up to their committees. They also have done a cost analysis. The food service changes because we don't have many full-time people. The hours are minimal. It was a minimal cost to make that adjustment. If they don't, it just will make it harder to share staff. We have a lot of part-time employees with food service who might want to pick up hours in another district. It's not as appealing if you're making a certain, $16 in Norfolk to come and work in Plainville for less than that. So I think it serves everybody well to have a consistent salary schedule. But right now we're only regionalized at the management level. So it won't impact Norfolk negatively if they don't. It just might hamper people's incentive to work between districts. Any other questions on that? So Medora, we need a motion to vote to approve the changes to the salary schedule.
All right, looking for a motion to approve the proposed new salary matrix for the food service and clerical units.
So moved.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? No, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have at the end of the year, as we're closing out the budget, the school committee has a policy. If we want to transfer any funds from one account to another, if it's over $5,000, the transfer has to be voted on and approved by the school committee. So as we're closing out the budget, as Barry's been reporting quarterly, we have areas where we're over budget. We have areas where we have some savings. So this is to kind of balance that out as we end the fiscal year. So Barry, do you want to walk through the budget, the recommended budget transfers?
Sure. So there's the memo on top of a more detailed account by account transfer. But basically, what we're requesting is transferring from salary accounts totaling $150,000 and maintenance accounts totaling $10,000 to tuition accounts for $86,000, the summer preschool program accounts for $16,000, and then special education transportation for $61,000. And as I've reported in the last few budget updates, we did have some more activity in out-of-district tuition and transportation than we originally budgeted. And this covers those budget overages. And, salary savings occur annually, primarily due to things like unpaid leaves and FMLE leaves and things like that. So I would say there isn't anything here that is atypical from any school year, one school year to the next. And there's detail on the second page with the individual accounts that we're transferring from and to.
We also this year had some positions we couldn't fill in the beginning of the year, so we realized some salary savings there. As we said, we didn't fill the tech integration teacher until February, so that realized some savings there.
Right.
Any questions on those?
Okay, so then we would be looking for a motion to approve the budget transfers as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay. All those, any further discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Barry. The next thing on for tonight is under the state regulations, the school committee is responsible for appointing school nurses. There's several positions that are appointed by the committee. It's the business consultant, which you did a couple of months ago, the school nurses, school physician, and special education director. So the school nurses, as you are aware, both of our nurses are leaving. Anne Hurley is planning to retire retired at the end of the school year, and Barbara DiGiacomo is resigning at the end of the school year. We will be actively recruiting for 2 new nurses. Anne Hurley has agreed, given that we're going to have no veteran staff and there's a lot to learn as you transition into school nursing. She has agreed to come back to work 2 days a week next year to support that transition. So at this time, while we're still recruiting the other open positions, the only candidate I have to recommend to the committee is to have you appoint Anne Hurley to work .4, which is 2 days a week at the HL of day. That would be under a letter of agreement. We would be paying her per diem rate. Again, she would support the transition and the mentoring and training of new nurses as we hire those positions. Hopefully in August, I will have another recommendation for you for the Freeman Kennedy and for the other 3 days, but it is a really tough position to fill right now. So we're working on it, but I would like to request for tonight that the committee vote to appoint Anne Hurley to .4 position 2 days a week at the HL of day. I'm happy to take any questions, or if not, we just need a motion.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to appoint Anne Hurley as a .4 school nurse for the coming school year.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All right. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I will. Motion passes. Oh, yep.
I just want to say our nurses did an outstanding job this year. It has been a Herculean responsibility. When the state made changes and stopped contact tracing, all of that responsibility was then sent to the school nurses. They worked nights, weekends, a ton of hours just to meet the state requirements with very little support. So I think it's fabulous that Anne's willing to come back, and we're very lucky to have her, and we will greatly miss Barbara. She was a wonderful resource, great support to families. I hear nothing but great things about both our nurses. So I just want to recognize the hard work and effort that they put in this year.
Yes, and a huge thank you to Mrs. Hurley for agreeing to help us out going into next year. That's That's a big deal when you thought you were going to retire. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, great. Next is, so for new members, for Lisa, the superintendent evaluation process. So every year annually, the school committee has to complete an evaluation of my performance. That process is really directed by the state. There's a rubric that identifies standards, the performance standards for superintendents. And then we also have the goals that the school committee votes to approve. And so you are evaluating me on my performance towards my goals, as well as to the standards outlined by the state in the rubric. Process-wise, I bring the goals usually to you in the fall. You vote to approve them, and then I do an update at the end of the year of where we are. Last year, the committee voted to approve 2-year goals. So I'm just completing the first year of those 2-year goals, and I will provide an update today. Then I will, after this meeting, send all of the committee members the blank evaluation form. Everybody fills that out individually, and then you share your feedback with Medora, who will compile one evaluation based on the feedback from the individual committee members. And then that is shared publicly at the August school committee meeting. Right? Anything that I need to add to that, Medora?
Please send them to me as soon as they're done. so that I have time to complete everything before the meeting where we're going to try and discuss everything. I know that was usually Thomas's request when he was in charge of wrangling the reviews. So I'd appreciate as much time as you can give me over the summer to get those squared away.
Great. All right. So in your packet, I shared with you these are the goals that you approved for me back in the fall. There's 4 goals: a professional practice goal, there's a district improvement goal, and then there is student learning goals. Again, these are written as 2-year goals. I feel at this point that I am on track to complete them all with the end of the 2-year cycle. Under each goal, the professional practice goal this year was really to look at strengthening our district recruiting program and our practices for hiring new employees, and to develop effective strategies for addressing staffing shortages. And as we talked about, we have critical staffing shortage in special education and food service. And we're also struggling, as everybody in the state is, with substitutes. There is a series of action steps outlined under this goal, as well as evidence of goal attainment. And I've indicated under each action step its status. The first was to look at our current advertising sites for effectiveness in recruiting qualified candidates and for hiring candidates with diverse backgrounds. That is complete. We have been looking at those programs. We've also been working with our DEI director to look at different ways of expanding our advertising network. So that's well underway. We have also looked at providing training for all of our administrators in interviewing to make sure that we are eliminating bias in interviewing and screening candidates. We have at this point trained all of our administrators. In the fall, we will be training teachers and anyone serving on interview committees. We have, as I brought a couple of months ago, and Adrienne worked her magic to design them in an artistic way, but we have updated and published new marketing materials for the district, and we've updated the marketing materials on the website. We are in progress working on trying to continue to expand partnerships with local universities to bring in more student teachers. That's been really tough. We've worked with Bridgewater State. We've reached out to Framingham State, to Worcester State. It's difficult because of the location of Norfolk, and a lot of student teachers don't have transportation. So that has been hard for us to get candidates placed. We've been more successful with Bridgewater, but we're continuing to look at ways to continue to facilitate those partnerships. We have moved the timeline up for advertising and recruiting. We always advertise now for our anticipated vacancies in April, and they're always listed as pending because we can't post them officially until the budget's approved at town meeting. But we start advertising early, start collecting resumes. I think we're in good shape with that. We are still working on the substitute situation, looking for ways to entice more people into substitute teaching. Vicki this year did a substitute training, and in partnership with Roxanne, we did an informational session for anybody who has considering substituting in schools. We know that there's a lot of people who worry if they're qualified or if they have, what support will be available. So they hosted a webinar series for that. We got a few more sub-candidates in. It's been tough in schools right now. A lot of people, that's not where they really want to be. And so it's been challenging, but we're continuing to work on that. We also worked with the PTO, and Susan Klein helped with putting things out on the town webpage. So we've been trying to, through LinkedIn, Facebook, and other town communications, to recruit local people. We've put things in our Wednesday's Words newsletter. So we're making some progress, but that continues to be challenging. We are also in the process of developing an online virtual training course for new employees to the district. We have a safety module at this point, so anybody new that's onboarded can watch and be trained on all of our emergency and safety protocols. We're also looking at developing a series of different modules, one on classroom discipline and classroom management, something to provide an overview of our core curriculum. We also have, and we'll look at transitioning this into part of this mini course for new employees, substitute training on the technology that we use in the district. So we're working on that, and that's in progress. We are also looking at one of the positions that we struggle to fill is our RBT certified paraprofessional positions, and those are paraprofessionals that really support our global developmental delay program and work with students on the autism spectrum. So that is a tough position, and we're looking to create ways to incentivize some of our current paraprofessionals to getting that licensure. And that's something that I'm working on with Anna as well. So as far as the recruiting, we did share already the updated recruiting materials, and those are available on our website as well. And we are in the process of compiling data regarding advertising and recruitment sites. We've run into some snags because School Spring, which is the primary way that people apply to jobs in education in Massachusetts, they don't collect a lot of data. So it's very difficult for us to track who's applying and how many people are visiting the Norfolk job listings. So we're looking at ways of gathering some additional data. I believe that we are looking at another vendor called a GoGos that we are considering using as a hiring platform, again, to attract a broader range of candidates to Norfolk. And I will have a report for the committee probably January, February of next year to present the full recruitment plan. But again, I think that goes on track. We got a lot of it done this year. And again, it's really a long-term 2-year goal. District improvement goals. Again, the focus of that was to conduct the district equity audit this year and to identify any policies or practices that might be contributing to disparate outcomes for different populations of students. And so the action steps under that were to establish a district equity committee who would be responsible for gathering and analyzing the data. We did that back in October. We worked with the Equity Committee to develop a clear vision statement of what the safe, inclusive, and equitable school community would look like. And we used that vision statement to determine what types of data we would need to gather and collect. I presented that back to the school committee, the vision statement, I think in December. And again, it was looking at academic outcomes, community, sense of belonging, and really shaping what our vision, our long-term vision was, so that we could drive our audit in that direction. So that was complete. We did conduct the surveys of all staff members as well as the family engagement survey and analyze those results. The results are included in the equity report that will come to the committee in August. We are going to continue based on the data we gathered in the surveys to do some focus groups, but that will come in the fall to, again, enrich the picture. We have looked at all of our student achievement data and analyzed achievement data, both benchmark data, local data, as well as MCAS data and other standardized data for equity gaps. We, in the fall, will be doing building walkthroughs to look at the environment from an equity lens. And then again, the final report will come to the school committee. We will have an initial report in August that will identify all of our major findings and recommendations, and then that would go to the strategic planning committee to consider as we're developing our next goals. So that I think is in really good shape. We had our last equity meeting early in June, Vicki, is that right? Early in June, to review each subcommittee's findings, and we're just in the process of putting that final report together. The third goal is a goal that will be a beginning. I haven't started this. We wanted to complete the equity audit, and we also need to get some additional new academic data. As you know, we were missing some data. We didn't give the MCAS during the after the COVID closure. Last year's data was our first year back, and it was from a hybrid remote setting. So once we have the new academic data from the end of year, as well as the MCAS data and all of the data from the equity audit, we will begin the process of developing the new 3-year strategic plan. So that will be for next year. The student learning goal, again, we were really looking at trying to address unfinished learning in mathematics and through a range of different strategies. As you know, we wrote and procured funding through the Title I grant for additional developmental math support, and we also funded through the ESSER grant an additional developmental math teacher for the H. Olive Day School. So that was complete, bringing in that additional staff. We have looked at all of our math benchmark data at the administrative team, and then Ms. Saldana's been working on that with the math specialist to make modifications to the curriculum based on findings of the data, areas where students were struggling, and has put together launching units with a focus on reinforcing skills that were lagging from last year. And they continue to work on shoring up the curriculum and reinforcing those skills that students need additional time with. Again, we finished the grant funding. We brought in the additional support staff. We were effectively able to transition that additional staff into the operating budget this year, so we can carry that forward. As we know, we knew it was going to be an immediate need this year, but it is going to take it's going to take more than 1 year to address the learning deficits that we want to really address. Let me see what other action steps. We will be working with Anna and Vicki next year to look at evaluating our specialized instructional math resources and tools. And again, looking at the technology subscriptions and additional tools to support student learning in math. Vicki and Trish worked on that this year and did recommend some additional resources. We're going to sunset one of our math programs that we're not finding a great return on, and bringing in an additional tool to promote fluency, back fluency up at the Freeman Kennedy at the upper grades. Do I have that correct, Vicki? You want to add to that?
Yes, I think we looked, we did Trish did a really thorough audit, and we kind of sat down and met with the building administrators to kind of go through the usage data, and there was a couple of math tools we scaled back as well as a literacy tool that and this way will allow us to kind of bring in those other tools that were identified by teachers that we piloted this year that were really highly effective in kind of supporting that unfinished learning that we have are going to be able to purchase because of the cost savings.
Great. And then again, you know, we continue to work with the professional development committee to provide instruction and coaching and support for teachers in those critical areas and how to accelerate learning, you know, as we're returning to a more traditional learning model. Additionally, in the goals packet, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, you evaluate me again, progress against goals, but also against the standards in the rubric. So I provided some examples of other things under each of the standards. The 4 standards for superintendents are instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. I'm happy to walk through those. You can take a look at them. They're all outlined in your packet, but I just tried to give you some examples of what those standards cover. And happy to take any questions, anything that anybody wants to discuss further, or again, process-wise, I will send you the evaluation tool, and you'll have this document to refer to and to provide your feedback and comments to Medora so she can compile a final evaluation for the August meeting. But happy to take any questions, or I know we're getting to 8 o'clock, so I don't want to drown you in details, but Great. All right, and if you have individual questions or you want to talk about anything in here, I'm happy to set up a time to do that. All right. All right, next, only a few more things. Next, we have the proposed school calendar. We had talked about transitioning some of our meetings to Wednesday nights and staying with Tuesday nights on meetings that don't involve budget. So you have in your packet a proposed calendar for school committee meetings for next year. The August meeting would be on Tuesday. September would be a Tuesday meeting for September 13th. October 11th is also a Tuesday night meeting. Then we head into budget season, which would be shifting the meetings to Wednesday for November 9th, December 14th, January 11th, February 6th. And then the public hearing is always the first Wednesday in March. So that would be March 1st. And then we would shift back to Tuesday for April and May, with the last meeting of the year when we do the budget transfers being a Wednesday. So that's the proposed draft. Did anybody have comments, questions, or does that look okay to people?
Jen just might run into an issue generally if it's a KP school committee week that falls during Columbus Day. They usually meet the Tuesday after the Monday holiday.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I don't remember their schedule for it. I deleted all that off my calendar.
I probably should have printed it up. I do have, and it's not a big deal. I always have a conflict in August. I'll be away that week.
Okay.
But I think we'll probably have a quorum. And then my other comment would be, and I'm not positive, but Tuesday, May 9th, isn't that traditionally town meeting? But I could be wrong.
Let me just take a look. It usually is the second.
Is that the first? I was just when you were talking, I was just trying to pull up May calendar.
That is, so you're right. We'll have to amend that date. We typically meet the week after. So I'm sorry, that would be May 16th for that meeting, because we meet and reorganize after town votes to certify the election. So thanks, Jen. Does that look okay?
One minor thing, there was a typo at the top with 2022.
20,222. Thank you.
I want to jump ahead a little bit.
All right. Sounds good. So those will be the tentative dates. We still will, confirm that at the end of each meeting, but those will be the tentative dates if people want to put those on their calendar. Great. Next is lunch prices. So as you're aware, this year.
Do we have to vote on the calendar?
No, those are just proposed dates for discussion. We'll vote the next meeting at the end of each meeting.
Okay, sorry. It was just listed as a vote in the agenda.
Oh. All right. Do you want to vote it? Subject to change. We can.
The friendly amendments that we just discussed, right? Yeah. And making clear note that Jen won't be here in August. We can include that in the motion.
Okay.
So we need a motion to accept the proposed school committee meeting dates.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Sorry. So moving on, this year, through federal grant funding, all school nutrition and meals were free for all students. We had a large participation in the food service program. Almost 70% of our students were eating school meals, which was great to see. That is not continuing for next year at the federal level. It is still being debated at the state level through the conference committee. What was in the House budget didn't mirror what was in the other budget, so in the governor's budget. So they're still trying to balance that out. And we're not sure what that reimbursement is going to look like if it does pass at the state level. At the same time, because of significant supply shortages and increased costs in paper, our school food service director does not feel that we will be able to offer lunches at the same rate that we did pre-pandemic, which was $3 per meal, given the increased costs of all of the materials and the supply chain issues they've been facing. She is recommending that we increase the school lunch rate by 25 cents. So it would be $3.25. We did do a study and look at what regional districts are charging for lunch. That's well aligned with what most districts are charging. There's quite a few, Barry, I think, that were higher at the $3.50, $3.75. Very few that were lower. I think Plainville's a little bit lower in that matrix. But this puts us really in line with what most districts are charging for lunch. Now, obviously, if the state offers some reimbursement or some funding, we could relook at that. This is a proposal with the assumption that there is no funding for free meals going into next year. So we are looking for a vote to approve the lunch price increase of 25 cents to $3.25 should the district not have access to any reimbursement for funding, or the state does not offer free meals.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move to accept the 2022-2023 lunch price increase of 25 cents.
Second?
Second.
Okay, so just, that's what, like, so we have not raised it's been $3 for a really long time, right? Is that?
We haven't raised the lunch price. It's probably been 4 or 5 years. We were at $2.75, we went up to $3, but we haven't touched this. And again, we didn't charge for lunches for the last 2 because of the.
Right, and so it's like an 8% give or take increase. Is that? I'm looking at Barry in my tile screen. I feel like you should be able to do that math better than me. All right. So 8% relative to, I mean, I think, you know, I mean, you never like to raise the prices, but like the reality is what the reality is. I think things have gone up more than 8%, certainly. And I think it's been maybe even longer since we've raised the prices. I don't remember ever paying less than $3. And I have a child that's now in 7th grade. So I think that it's held firm at that for a pretty long time. I think it's reasonable to.
Other districts are doing it too. Franklin just raised theirs. I think it's.
I think everybody's the same. The cost of food and the cost of all of the supplies has gone up so much, and our food service program runs as a self-funding program. So the staff for the food service, all of the food costs are funded by the revenue they take in. If we're short, then we have to fund that out of the operating budget, whatever the shortfall is, which means we have to transfer money from instructional supplies or from salaries or from other places to cover that. I think we may, even with the 325, find that doesn't cover the full cost. We may end up having to supplement this budget next year, but I think if we don't do it, we could be in a significant shortfall in the food service department. We are still, as I said, hoping that the state will offer some reimbursement, but there's a big disparity in what's in the 2 budgets, and it's at the conference committee now. They're trying to resolve that, so we don't know what that looks like. So this will prepare us should that not provide the relief that we would like to see.
Just a question, my going into 2nd grade has never bought lunch because it's been free for the past 2 years. Kindergarten was hybrid. So no one at HOD has actually experienced buying before. So no one, I don't even know how it works. Can you opt in some days? Can you opt out some days? So I think that would be good to know for everyone going in. I think it'll be a new thing for everyone and a good time to do it because at least at that school, it's brand new for everyone.
Yeah, that's a good point, Lisa. We'll make sure that we send the information out. So we have a program where parents can, through My School Bucks, they can put money into an account for their child that they charge against when they buy. You can buy every day, or you can just run that account and buy periodically. But it is a good point that we probably have to remind everybody of what the procedures are and how to put money into the School Bucks account and what it looks like. And we will also have to walk through that with the kids. Have not done it. So we'll be conscious of that when we send information out about the beginning of the year.
And is the school neutral on whether kids choose to buy lunch or bring lunch? Is that just...
Yeah, it's totally parent preference. I think a lot of people, it's convenient, and the offerings there's multiple different choices each day. So I think a lot of people chose to buy it this year, and I think the kids tried a lot of different things, but no, it's totally parent. It's totally up to what works for families.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. Then the last thing I have tonight is
we actually still need to vote. We need to vote on the motion, Ingrid. I think we did a whole bunch of further discussion. So all those in favor of raising the price of school lunch as proposed going into next year.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
All right, then the last thing in your packets, again, we are members of the BICO Collaborative. The collaborative is, there's 17 districts that are part of BICO. BICO provides services, special education services, through many programs that are primarily housed in different public school districts that meet the needs of students that we are not able to meet within our district. And by being a member of BICO, if we refer a student to their program, we get a significant discount in tuition through BICO. A part of the requirements of the state is that the BICO treasurer and business managers certify the budget and provide a copy to all member districts. So you have in your packet a copy of the certified 2023 budget for BICO. I would want to just inform the committee that the collaborative has struggled financially this past year, as many collaboratives across the state have. I think over the past probably five to 10 years, districts have really been working to build strong in-district programs and keeping kids in district whenever possible. So the demands and the needs for BICO and for collaboratives have changed because districts aren't referring as many kids out. BICO is working on shifting some of their programming and offering programming that better meets the needs of member districts. So for example, where a lot of districts used to access programs through BICO to support students with social, emotional, and behavioral health needs, most districts have programs in-house now for that. We tend to access programming for students with significant medical needs through BICO, and for other types of behavior that or significant needs that we just can't program for within the district. So they are really looking at what they can do to create some new programs that might meet better align with what districts need now. And as a result, you'll see in the budget that they're certifying a balanced budget, but they are using almost $500,000 of surplus from their reserve account in order to balance the budget for next year. We typically run BICO with an average of about 220 students. The enrollment's been about 199, and the majority of the revenue comes from tuition. So we are, as the board, we're working with the BICO director to try to look at new opportunities for programming to keep the collaborative viable. But I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted for you that the collaborative is running at a deficit right now, and we are using part of the surplus reserve funds in order to balance the fiscal budget for 2023. Happy to take any questions that people might have on that. All right, there is no vote needed for this one, so this is just more informational for you. And we usually do a quarterly update on BICO too, so I'll let you know where we are in the fall. We did have some new enrollment at the end of the year, so we're up around 220 now, but we have kids graduating and aging out, so that's something we're watching closely. That's it. I think we're on to the minutes. Or subcommittee, sorry.
Do we have any reports from King Philip?
They canceled last night, Tuesday. Last night's meeting was canceled, and the first Tuesday of the month I was on, or was it Wednesday? I wasn't able to make it. I had COVID, so no. But they had a very successful field day activity because they were all supposed to go to, I think it was 8th grade, and they were supposed to go to Water Whiz, but there was some sort of pump issue, so it got canceled. And somehow the teachers and PTO pulled it together, and they had a great successful day at Rice Complex. So it was really incredible, and they were very happy.
Great.
And policy subcommittee, have you guys met recently?
We did. We met just before this, and I'll try to make this quick. We read, it was great to be back together and have Sarah on board for it. So we are focusing on some budget and financial policies. We focused on 2 tonight, coming down from Mass. For both of them, annual budget and fiscal management goals. We've decided to use the MASC revised language for each policy with some incidental changes. So Ingrid's going to prepare those, and we'll bring those to the August meeting. And those were all informed by MASC, of course. And that is all from our Yay, meeting.
Awesome. So we have a set of meeting minutes that need to be approved. So assuming everyone did their homework in advance, but if you want to take a moment to re-review, feel free to do so. But we're looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 17th, 2022.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Medora, I just want to clarify, Vicki, let me know the grant, the $3,000 math grant actually is a math grant.
Okay.
Freeman Kennedy. And the new grant, we also did get a $3,000 grant to fund Katie Greer, but that'll be in your next packet because we have to check it.
Raining money right now into the school.
No, we love that.
This is great.
So the NCL grant for the Katie Greer programming, you'll have to vote to accept that next month or in August. All right.
All right. So it looks like our next school committee meeting is Tuesday, August 23rd. We have heard from committee member Wynn that she will not be able to attend, but assuming everyone else is okay with attending, I think we will have a quorum. Is that just for Lisa's edification? That's usually when we do the walkthrough, or do we hold that to September?
Nope. So what we typically do is offer a tour of the buildings and an update from the facilities department prior to that meeting. So Matt would meet us, walk us through both buildings, all the projects that were completed over the summer, and readiness. I may ask Trish Kelly to join us as well because we, as you know, we did some significant capital projects. And one of the things that she also did was to update, and again, we're updating and upgrading some of our security cameras. So we would do that prior to the August meeting, usually at 6 or 5:30.
Okay. So then at this point, we are not going to vote to adjourn. We are going to instead look for a motion to move to go. Ingrid, do I make this motion and someone votes on it, or do I need someone to read the motion?
You can make the motion and
Right.
then give a second.
I'm just going to do it that way because I have the language up. So we are going to have a vote to move to executive session. So I move to go into executive session to comply with the provisions of the open meeting law to discuss the deployment of security personnel or devices and not to reconvene in open session.
And we need a roll call vote for that.
So Shannon Meneses.
Do we just say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Jennifer Wynn.
Yes.
Lisa Sheldon.
Yes.
Sarah Ward.
Yes.
And Medora Champagne votes yes too, to the extent that that's needed. All right, so motion passes and we will go into executive session. So this concludes the open portion of